Rare coin collecting. Discover real value and history in every coin.
Before you skip past those old wheat pennies lying in your drawer, listen carefully. These 4 dates might look like the most ordinary pennies ever made: 1958S, 1956S, 1954S, and even the regular 1958 wheat penny. But what most collectors never realize is that each one of these coins has a hidden version that can explode in value from just a few cents to hundreds, or even 5-figure prices if you find the right condition or rare variety. And here's the twist. These years were struck during the final chapter of the wheat penny era, when the U.S. Mint was changing equipment, using worn dies, and producing coins with huge differences in quality, meaning the rare high-grade survivors are hiding in regular collections, pocket change, and old jars every single day. So, don't blink, because in the next few minutes, you're going to see exactly how a tiny detail, a bit of luster, or a nearly invisible mint mark, could turn an ordinary wheat penny into a coin worth thousands. Stay with me till the end. Your next treasure might be one of these. If you ever find a 1958 wheat penny, don't underestimate it just because it's one of the last wheat cents ever made. This coin might look simple and common, but the truth is that collectors chase the final years of any coin series, and 1958 is no exception. Even though millions were minted, certain conditions, errors, and varieties of this penny can reach 4-figure to even rare 5-figure prices, especially when preserved in the highest grades. A coin that most people walk past without a second thought can actually surprise you with its hidden value. The year 1958 marked the end of the wheat penny era. The U.S. economy was recovering from recession, industries were modernizing, and the mint was preparing to shift designs. This changeover created unusual pressure on production, leading to inconsistencies that collectors now study closely. The mint produced a large number of coins, but the majority entered circulation and were quickly beaten up through regular use. Copper coins of this era easily collected scratches, dings, discoloration, and environmental damage. That's why surviving examples that remain untouched, with original mint luster, are far rarer than the mintage numbers suggest. An ordinary, circulated 1958 penny is worth 5 to 25 cents, and cleaner circulated examples rise to $1 to $3. Uncirculated coins begin to show real value, jumping to $5 to $20, and strong red pieces with full shine can hit $30 to $100. Once you enter the premium grades, the numbers move dramatically. High-end MS-66 and MS-67 wheat cents can bring $200 to $1,500 depending on color and strike. And the real monsters are the flawless MS-67 Plus and MS-68 examples, extremely rare and fiercely competed for. These can reach $5,000, $10,000, and in one extreme case, a perfect top population example has pushed past $20,000 at major auctions. It's hard to believe, but a 1-cent coin from 1958 has sold for more than a brand new motorcycle. Another major value factor is the 1958 doubled die obverse, one of the rarest and most dramatic errors in modern U.S. coinage. It features strong doubling in the lettering and date, and it is so scarce that very few authenticated examples exist. Even in low grade, this variety can bring $5,000, while high-grade pieces have climbed into $50,000 plus territory. This is where the real 5-figure potential lies, and collectors dream about finding one in an old jar of pennies. The 1958 wheat penny becomes rarer every year because copper coins do not survive well over time. Many have corroded, turned brown, or been cleaned harshly, destroying their value. Others were melted for copper when metal prices spiked, and many of the high-grade examples have been locked away in graded holders and private collections, permanently shrinking the supply. As more people learn about rare wheat pennies, competition rises, and even average examples get pulled out of circulation forever. This coin is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a metal blend that reacts to air, moisture, fingerprints, and chemicals. That's why original red mint luster pennies from the 1950s are incredibly difficult to find today. Copper simply doesn't stay perfect for long. Condition decides everything. Red, RD, coins bring the highest prices. Red-brown, RB, are mid-range, and brown, BN, pieces usually sell for much less. Strong strike, clean surfaces, and no spots can multiply the value instantly. So, the next time you come across a 1958 wheat penny, don't ignore it. Look for sharp details, bright red brilliance, or any signs of doubling. What you thought was just an old copper penny could actually be a valuable end-of-era collectible worth far more than you expect. Keep checking your change and those old jars, because sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest surprises, and the next discovery might already be sitting in your home waiting to be noticed. If you ever find a 1958 wheat penny, don't overlook it for a second, because this final year San Francisco mint wheat cent has become one of the most interesting coins of the entire Lincoln series. Even though people assume the 1950s wheat pennies are common, the truth is that high-grade, untouched, brilliant red 1958 examples are far scarcer than collectors expected. And when you combine rarity with demand, prices can jump from a few dollars all the way into the four-figure and even rare five-figure range, especially for the best of the best. The year 1958 was a turning point. The U.S. was stabilizing after the economic slowdown of the mid-1950s. Manufacturing was booming again, and the mint was under pressure to meet increasing demand for small change. This was the final year before the design switched from the wheat reverse to the memorial reverse, which makes every 1958 issue historically significant. The San Francisco Mint struck fewer coins than Philadelphia, but even more important is the striking quality. Many 1958 cents came with soft details, weak strikes, and issues caused by worn dies, meaning that finding a crisp, blazing red, perfectly struck example today is harder than most people realize. A regular circulated 1958 wheat penny is usually worth 5 cents to 25 cents, and nicer circulated examples can reach $1 to $3. But once you get into uncirculated coins, the numbers shift quickly. Mint State Red examples start around $10 to $30, and high-end MS-65 to MS-66 coins reach $40 to $120. From there, things escalate fast. MS-67 red examples can command $300 to $600, and MS-67 plus red pieces often hit $1,000 to $2,500 at major auctions. The real shock comes with the highest-graded pennies in existence. The ultra-rare MS-68 red coins have sold for $10,000, $15,000, and even over $20,000 in past sales. Unbelievable numbers for a modern-era wheat penny. That's why collectors study every detail, searching for the flawless survivors. And then there's the possibility of errors. The 1958 has known repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, and minor doubling varieties that collectors pay serious attention to. Even a medium-level RPM can bring $25 to $150, and strong varieties can climb to $300 to $800, depending on condition. Combined with high grade, these prices grow even more. Error collectors love the final year wheat cents, which adds extra competition for every clean piece that appears on the market. The 1958 becomes rarer every year, even though it had a decent mintage. Copper is a metal that reacts quickly to humidity, air, fingerprints, and chemicals, making it extremely difficult for a 1958 penny to stay bright red for decades. Many have turned brown or developed spots, reducing their value. Others were spent and heavily circulated, scratched, dented, or damaged. And thousands were melted or tossed aside during the copper price spikes of the 1970s and 1980s. Meanwhile, the few high-grade survivors have been locked away in private collections and grading holders, never returning to circulation. That shrinking supply is exactly why values keep rising. This coin is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the classic wheat-era composition. Copper shows every flaw, so graders look closely for tiny marks, luster, surface smoothness, and color. Red, RD coins are the most valuable. Red-brown, RB, are mid-range, and brown, BN coins are the least valuable. Color alone can change the price by hundreds of dollars. That's why collectors obsess over the 1958 S. Finding a clean, full red example that has survived untouched since the day it left the mint is like finding a time capsule. So, the next time you see a 1958 S wheat penny, slow down and check it properly. Look for bright red color, clean surfaces, sharp details, and any mint mark varieties. What looks like a simple copper coin from the 1950s might actually be a valuable final-year collectible worth far more than you ever expected. Keep checking your change, your old jars, and those forgotten coin boxes, because sometimes the smallest treasure is the one hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone curious enough to recognize it. Next up, 1956 S wheat penny. Don't make the mistake of assuming it's just another common old coin, because collectors know this coin has a secret. While millions were minted, very few survived in flawless, bright red, untouched condition. And that tiny group of near-perfect coins can reach four-figure and even rare five-figure prices, shocking collectors who once thought this date would never be valuable. The 1956 S is a classic example of how condition and rarity can transform an ordinary-looking penny into a high-value collectible. The mid-1950s economy was in a strange phase. America was growing fast, industries were booming, families were expanding, and spending was rising. But inflation pressure and increased demand for everyday currency pushed the mint to produce massive quantities of small-denomination coins, including the 1956 S wheat cent. The San Francisco Mint was nearing the final years of striking wheat pennies, and their dies were used heavily. Many of the coins produced in 1956 came out with soft strikes, weaker details, and issues caused by worn equipment. Problems that now make sharp, well-struck examples far scarcer than the huge mintage numbers suggest. A circulated 1956 S penny is usually worth 5 cents to 30 cents, and nicer circulated examples reach $1 to $2, but the real value starts in mint state. Uncirculated examples begin around $5 to $15, and attractive red pieces jump to $20 to $40. MS65 and MS66. Red coins sell for $50 to $120, depending on luster and strike. But once you climb into MS67 red territory, prices explode to $250 to $600. And the elite grades, the extremely rare MS67 Plus and MS68 red coins, are the stars of the show. These ultra-high-grade 1956 S pennies have sold for $4,000, $6,000, $8,000, and in extreme top population cases, over $10,000. That's the power of perfection. When a coin survives untouched for nearly 70 years, collectors compete fiercely to own the best of the best. Errors also add serious value. The 1956 S wheat penny has several popular repunched mintmark RPM varieties, some of which show bold doubling of the S mintmark. These can bring $30 to $150 depending on grade. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks add even more interest. and collectors often pay $50 to several $100s for dramatic examples. Error collectors especially love late 50s wheat cents because the mint's worn dies created some striking oddities. This coin becomes rarer every day for one simple reason. Copper doesn't age well. Made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the metal reacts with air, moisture, oils, and even light. Many 1956S pennies have turned brown, developed carbon spots, or lost their mint luster entirely. Others were stored poorly, cleaned harshly, damaged in circulation, or melted during copper price spikes in the 1970s and 1980s. And every high-grade example that gets graded and locked in a slab is removed from circulation forever. As time goes on, the number of surviving red, high-grade pieces shrinks rapidly, pushing values higher as collectors compete for the remaining perfect ones. Condition is everything for the 1956S collectors. Look for full mint luster, strong strike on Lincoln's beard and wheat lines, and clean, spot-free copper surfaces. Red, RD coins bring the highest premium, red-brown, RB, are mid-range, and brown, BN, examples generally stay low in value. Even a tiny spot or mark can drop a grade and reduce the price by hundreds. That's why the few MS-68 red pieces are treasured. They are time capsules of the year 1956, preserved as if they just left the mint. So the next time you see a 1956S wheat penny, take a moment and examine it closely. Look for bright red color, crisp details, and any unusual mint mark varieties. What looks like a simple copper penny could actually be one of the final high-quality survivors from a rapidly disappearing era. Keep checking your jars, drawers, and old family collections, because the real treasures are always hiding where people least expect them, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. If you've been saving old wheat pennies, the 1954S might look like a simple, common coin. But here's the twist most collectors don't know. Even though millions were minted, the majority were spent, worn down, damaged, or melted during later decades, which means high-grade survivors are far rarer than people think. And that's exactly why the 1954S is quietly climbing in value today, especially in the upper mint state levels. A normal circulated one might only fetch a little pocket change, but once you step into gem quality, the numbers start jumping fast. Serious collectors have already paid $1,500, $3,000, and even over $10,000 for the highest-graded 1954S examples, especially those in MS-67 and MS-67 Plus with perfect luster. Now, why is this little cent still important today? Because it's one of the last San Francisco minted wheat pennies in American history. Only 4 more years of wheats came after this date. By 1959, the Lincoln Memorial design replaced the wheat reverse forever. So every 1954S cent you hold is a piece of the final chapter of the wheatback era, a design that ran from 1909 to 1958 and is now one of the most beloved series in U.S. numismatics. And back in 1954, the U.S. economy was recovering from the Korean War period. Production at the San Francisco Mint slowed compared to earlier decades, and many coins were struck with softer detail due to worn dies. That makes sharply struck examples much more desirable today. The metal composition also plays a role. 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the classic bronze alloy used until 1962. Copper reacts strongly to the environment, which is why so many 1954S pennies show discoloration, carbon spots, staining, and corrosion. Finding one that survived with bright original mint red, graded RD, is extremely difficult. These full red survivors are the coins that hit the big numbers at auction. It's not unusual for RD examples in MS-66 or MS-67 to bring 4 figures, especially if certified by PCGS or NGC. Another thing that makes the 1954S stand out is the sharp difference between average and premium examples. A normal circulated one in VG or F might be worth 10 cents to 50 cents, and even a clean AU coin may only reach a few dollars. But once you cross into true gem territory, collectors start competing hard because so few have survived untouched for 70 years. The population numbers prove it. Thousands exist in lower grades, but only a very small handful reach MS 67, and only a couple ever make it above that. That's why those top coins command $8,000, $12,000, and sometimes more depending on color and strike. So here's the real question. What if the 1954S you have right now is nicer than you think? Maybe it has full mint luster, clean surfaces, sharp wheat lines, and only minor marks under magnification. Many people throw these into jars without ever checking for high-grade potential. And who knows, maybe yours could be one of those rare RD gems worth hundreds or thousands. That's the fun part of collecting. You never know what treasure is hiding in plain sight until you take a closer look. And the more old pennies you check, the better your eye becomes. If you enjoy learning about coins that seem common but can still surprise you with big value jumps, keep watching, because the next one might be even more unexpected than this.